guys, Katy Huller here with Kids Can Read and Write. And today I want to talk more about the shun trick. The T-I-O-N. Shun, 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 shun. Now, when you have shun in a word, it's important to watch and see. Is a vowel touching the shun trick? If a vowel is touching the shun trick, it will usually say its name. Now, there is one vowel who refuses to say his name for the shun trick. Do you know which one it is? Well, our choices are A, E, I, O, and U. Who knows which vowel refuses to say his name for the shun trick? If you said I, you are correct. So I is the only vowel who refuses to say his name for the shun trick. So he'll just say I if he comes right before the shun trick. Now, shun is such a big trick, it can't jump to boss a vowel. It can only boss a vowel, make it say its name, if it touches it, okay? So if you see the shun trick touching the vowel, that's when you want to make the vowel say its name, unless it's letter I. And remember, I refuses to say his name for shun. So when we read a big word like this, if you're not used to reading big words, remember to break it into smaller parts to make it easier. Again, we want to know our vowels, because after you glue a vowel onto the next sound, you can usually break it right there. So we're going to look for our vowels. That's where our first break will go. Our ER trick, remember that says If you've been watching other videos of mine, you probably already know that. If not, E and the R stick together and they say That's because E has his mouth wide open to the R, and they keep talking and talking, so when the teacher calls on them, they say, we don't know. So say when you see ER. That's where we'll break it there. Now, here's one more. Instead of gluing that on, we're going to go ahead and break it there because that big old chunk of trick is last. So we'll just go ahead and do that. So here we go. We're going to read it. Ob. Then we read the next part, sir. If we put these two together, we get obsir. Now let's read this part. Now remember, A is going to say his name because he's touching the shun. So shun will boss him around. The A, and here's our shun. Okay, so we go observation. Observation. So when you make an observation, you notice something about something. Observation. All right, how about this one? We're going to glue that E onto the next sound and break it. And then we're going to glue the O onto that next sound and break it. Now look at this U. It's touching the shun. So we can either glue it right on, or we can break it here and keep the shun by itself. Either way is going to work. That's why I don't want you to get too uptight about where you break up words, because you can usually manipulate that quite a bit. But this is a quick and easy, dirty way to break up words, just to make them easier. Because a lot of times when your kids are reading big words, they can't hear when you put too many sounds together after another. They need to hear this part, then this part, put those two together, and then maybe put these two together and then join it. Otherwise, a lot of kids with auditory processing issues will just jumble up all the sounds they heard into some kind of nonsense word. So if you're struggling with that, or if your kids are struggling with that, make sure you just try to put 2 parts together, maybe add a third, or put these 2 together, and then these 2, and then put them all together. Helps so much. It is a game changer for kids who are just saying random sounds when they try to put a lot of sounds together at once. So let's read this part. We have R, and then ev, rev. We're going to open our mouths wide. All, rev, all. Now we're going to say use name. You, because he's touching the shun, and then shun. You shun. So we get rev, all, you shun. Revolution. Revolution. Do you hear it? Revolution. So this is where you sometimes sounds like it says ooh to people. It's really saying you, but when we say it quickly, revolution, 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 it just starts slurring into ooh, revolution, okay? So just keep that in mind. When you're reading, it's actually saying you. Do not teach your kids that you says ooh. It doesn't. It says you or But when we slur it, it does sound like ooh sometimes. So just keep that in mind. It's really revolution, revolution. But when we say it fast, revolution. All right, let's try this one. Glue this onto your next sound. Glue this onto the next sound there. Look who's here before the shun trick. Do you remember how I refuses to say his name for shun? So when you're reading this, make sure when you get here, don't say I's name. Just say eh, because that ice cream's falling off, and I refuses to say his name for the shun. So here we go. We're going to glue this together. X, X, P, ed. There's Daddy's face. Ped, I, and then shun, 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 shun. So you get X, ped, I, shun. Exped, expedition. Expedition. Do you hear it? Expedition. Now, if you notice your child swallowing up syllables, slow them down and just go back to saying 1 plus 2, okay? Exped, exped, exped. Make them say it maybe 5, 6 times till they get exped, exped in their head, okay? And then make them do the ishun, ishun. Then have them put it all together. Expedition. But if they end up saying exshun or expedition, then just go back and take as long as it takes to train their brains to make each chunk out loud, okay? And that's really important because kids with auditory processing have a really hard time with this at first. When you get to the 3, 4, 5 syllable words, you'll just see syllables coming in and out and just crazy things happening. So you really have to train this where you put one part, then the next part, put them together, then this part, put them together, then put it all together. You have to reduce the number of sounds they're hearing so the brain can process it accordingly. And that's just something you'll notice. Some people have a really hard time with multiple syllables, and you just want to deal with it, make it into bigger parts so that it's just, one here once they get that together, and one here once they get that together. It makes it only 2 parts to have to hear and put together. So don't be frustrated. If it takes a while, take a deep breath and just let your child work on it until his or her brain understands what's happening. And that's what it takes. So don't give up. It's possible. It just sometimes I'll spend 10 minutes on one long word like this with a student just so their brain can learn it. And then you'll find the next time you run across it, it's usually fast. They might go, oh, this is that word again. But then when they sound it out, the brain hears it so much faster. So don't give up and don't just tell them the answer. You've got to give their brain a chance to figure it out so that it will recognize it the next time. So an expedition, like a journey somewhere to discover something, an expedition. All right, how about this one? Here's our vowel right at the beginning again. So we're going to glue it on. And then look at this one. It is touching the shun. Did you see the shun hiding in there? Well, there it is. Shun, 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 shun. So this O is going to say its name. And then we have another trick at the end. And I wanted to include this word to show you that, yes, sometimes another trick can be added to the shun ending. So usually shun is at the end, but sometimes there's more. And you have to be able to spot that shun right in the middle. So take a look at this one. A and the L say all. All the L's want to go with the A, but sometimes just one can. So all for that. So here we go. We're going to break it here, keep the shun by itself, and then have that last trick. So here we go. We get M, O, shun, all. Emotional. Emotional. Like if you're very emotional, you have a lot of emotions coming out, right? It's more emotional, but if you sound it out, emotional, you should also hear it. So either way, emotional or emotional. Most people say emotional, emotional, emotional. But again, the reason we break this is to help kids who are learning to read and don't know where to break the words. They don't know, necessarily where that break goes. So if you just get them close, usually they'll hear the word, especially if they're native English speakers, because they'll recognize what they're saying. It's a little harder if you're learning the language for the first time because you might not recognize the word you're saying. So I don't know about how to do that. That's not my specialty. But if you're working with dyslexic kids who are having trouble reading, or just somebody who just got skipped over somehow and didn't learn to read till they're older, this is the best way to do it, especially if they're native English learners. So let's try this last one. Now this last one I put in because notice how the vowel is not touching the shun. It's a C instead. Like I said earlier, shun cannot jump to boss a vowel. So in this case, this is just going to be a regular old A. Okay, we're going to break it. So here we go. Let's glue that on. Let's glue that on. There's our break. So how would we read this? Is, dis, ta, ra. Remember, R does not say E and the R say I and the R say and you and the R say But R should be r, ta, ra, tra. Okay? Track, track. And then shun, 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 shun. There's our tion trick. So here we go. Dis, track, shun. Distraction, distraction. A distraction is something that distracts you, right? Anything could be a distraction if it takes your attention and makes you, lose your focus. So a distraction. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed reading some biggish words with that tion trick. Remember, tion says shun, 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 shun. And if a vowel touches it, make sure that you make that vowel say its name unless it's letter I. And for more tips like this, guys, go to kidscanreadandwrite.com or kidscanonlineacademy.com. If you want to learn to read, especially if you don't know these tricks like the E and the R, the tion saying shun, the A and the L saying all, if you don't know these, use the Black Belt Reading Program. You know, by that, I put all the videos in there to teach all the tricks. And by the time you get to the end of the packets, they start pretty easy because they're really for the younger kids starting out with reading. But by the end, you're getting to words that are this big. And if you need more challenging packets than are currently in there, because like I said it right now, the current version, and I don't know what it'll be when you see this, but the current version today has the first grade packets in it. And so maybe like anywhere kinder, first, second, if you have a beginning reader. But like I said, by the time you get to the shun trick, any age is reading the big words. And that's what's so beautiful about the program. It builds as you go. So it's not stressful in the beginning, but you do get to the bigger words. And by the end, you should be able to read pretty much anything if you've learned your tricks. So if you need help learning to read or learning to spell, which is also in there, look up the Black Belt Reading Program. You can find it at kidscanonlineacademy.com or at kidscanreadandwrite.com. Thanks again for joining me today. I hope this helps you on your reading journey. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.